All right, hey gang, we're back here with your Little Shoe Career Pathways Academy video lecture series. We are currently in our active literacy model, and we are going to be working today with our tree map. Okay, our tree map, which looks like this. You can see, I think, from the idea that why they call it the tree map. You have, kind of the branches that come down top to bottom. All right, as always, we're going to start with why we use our tree map. So if you are sitting in class and you kind of have a bunch of ideas, and now you just need to classify those ideas. You need to put them into nice, neat categories. Perhaps you've already used a circle map and you've brainstormed all the ideas, and that thought process was kind of messy and muddled, and now you're to the point where that they need to be put into a more succinct, organized presentation. So you're going to use your tree map to do that thing, or you have a bunch of different main ideas, main topics, and you need to group them all together. So essentially, the circle map and the tree map are similar in that standpoint because you're taking a bunch of ideas and you can kind of list them. The only difference is you're not brainstorming. The ideas are pretty much there. You just need to organize them. All right. So let's take a look at what this might look like in practice. So I have my tree map here, and for the time being, let's pretend that that's not there. All right, that's not there. So we write a play. We'll just say play X, and our play had 4 acts. So we've read the play, and I say, all right, we have all of our plot points. I want you to go back, and I want you to organize them. So you have some notes that you can refer to that will help you understand, kind of what all happened. Okay, you have these different things that happen. So you have play acts and you have 4 acts. So we want to take a look at the 4 individual acts. So those are going to be our categories. So at the top, so taking a step back, when we set up our map, whatever our main topic is will go at the top. Okay, and there has to be a line underneath it. So you'll have the main topic, and then you draw that line. And we go down to our branches, and we have, in this case, 4 separate topics, and each one needs to have a line underneath it. Okay, and then underneath that, we'll have more lines, okay, that will contain, in this case, we would do our details of what happened in each one of these acts. Okay, so when you set up the tree map, it's important because this is a more organized. We need to make sure our thinking is organized here. And so you put these lines in. I've had people before we get to this point. Okay, we get to this point right here, and then we don't include these lines. We just write a bunch of stuff down here without the lines. Well, you might as well use a circle map then because your thinking is disorganized. So we want to use those lines to make sure that our thought process is nice and organized. Okay, well, let's say, okay, now we have all this stuff. We've organized the ideas. We've organized our concepts. Now we want to do something with it. So we add the frame of reference, and maybe in this case we'll ask a question like, well, what is the theme? What is the theme of play X? All right, so we can take a look at all the events that happen in each one of those, and now maybe here, or actually what we do here is after looking at each one of those, just borrowing some from Romeo and Juliet, maybe out here then within the frame of reference, then we can write some of these in here. And now I'm ready to go. All right, another example. Back to our periodic table of elements. So let's say we set it up and we have metals, transitional metals, other nonmetals, and noble gases. Now, without the frame of reference, what are we going to write here? There are all kinds of things I can think of writing. It's very disorganized. So in this tree map, the frame of reference is vital. So I've given some examples of how a frame of reference can help you out. So maybe you want to look at what are the following. So maybe you're just listing. So you have metals and you list them right here. Okay, transition metals, list them. Bam, bam, bam. Other nonmetals and the noble gases. Well, maybe that's too simple for your purpose right now. Maybe you want to know what the characteristics are. So all the metals have these characteristics, and you'd write them right there. And the transitional metals, okay, and the nonmetals and the noble gases. All right, well, maybe that's not really what you want to work with either. Maybe your frame of reference is, how do we use these? Okay, so you'll go under, and in your metals, you'll describe and list how you use the metals, how we use them in real life, the transitional metals, the non-metals, the noble gases, etc. Okay, so in this case, the frame of reference does become crucial. All right, that is essentially it. That is our map. That is our tree map. But as always, we'll close by going over with what our checklist is, because every single time you use your map until you are completely perfect, in which case you should probably be teaching this rather than me. You need to assess yourself, self-assess, figure out how you can get better at using the tool for its purpose. So our checklist, first of all, you need to correctly set up the map so that there's the line underneath each one of those entries, the top, the main focus, each one of our subheadings, and then all of the ideas or content below, okay, because we need to organize our ideas here. Second of all, once you get down to that lowest level, your map needs to have complete thoughts so that anybody, okay, so you could walk out onto the street and hand your map to somebody and they could figure it out. They could figure out what you're talking about. And then lastly, it needs to be drawn in a manner that shows visual organization to maximize memory retrieval. And what I mean by that, the reason that our maps are set up like this, very, I don't want to say symmetrical, but very organized, okay, very organized. Actually, in this case, yeah, almost symmetrical, is because when it's organized, it's easier for us to process it to memory. If your lines are all over the place and they're not straight and it's a very disorganized looking map, it's going to be hard to commit it to memory. So that's a very key point as well. All right, that's all I have for you today. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. Other than that, I look forward to seeing the usage of tree maps by you in the future. Have a